Hey folks, it's been a while. I can't believe the last video I did would have been like probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, which is wild. So for those who don't know, my name is Ishmael Morano, and I build software solutions that have a real world impact. And today I'm going to talk about more about Bara in terms of we actually launching the app. So I'm just going to give a synopsis of Bara. So Bara basically is a food discovery app that allow persons to see food places that are open nearby and focuses on community check-in. So persons can go to a food place and check in if it's open or closed, indicate to other users if it's open or closed as more of a community focused app. So right now, I'm just going to go through like the actual caveats of what would have transpired before launch and whatnot. Right, so I'm going to show you. So this is how it looks on the app stores respectively. Apple, which shows the age is from 13 plus, the category, the size, and well the screenshots, which I would have done, and would have added like a description generally of like what the app is about, how it works, and the terms of use, location, and privacy, and whether the app has any subscriptions, and those things like that, and whether the app is tracking any data and what it's tracking and whatnot. The same for Google Play as well. And right, so we're going to talk about more about the issues that transpired. So for apps to be on the store, you have to submit it and it has to be approved. So usually Google and Apple would have actual reviewers usually review your app, and if it rejected, they usually would tell you why. And for Apple, they did that. So it got rejected twice, which you can see here. Usually would tell you why, as you can see here. So basically the issue, what had happened was they were saying that, let me see, app start requires users to log in or access. All right, so what happened? So what happened was they were testing on the iPad, which the app is more optimized for phones. And what happened is that they were saying that based on the type of app it is, that it should not force users to create an account, it should have a guest mode. But how the app would have been laid out for the iPad, it was hiding the guest button. So they just went the assumption I didn't have a guest feature, which is fine. So I had to replicate that on the actual iPad Air 11-inch M3 device. And when I saw the issue was, I fixed it and submitted it. The other issues was the terms of use, which I find is very funny. So basically, they were saying is that we should add it into the app store description, which you would see. Let me see, you'll see it here. This is what you're talking about. This was missing from it, and it's very rejected, which I find is kind of ridiculous because you already have the terms of conditions, etc., in the descriptions of the app for reference. But I digress. So we added that. And I think the last thing, so initially for the onboarding, we would have had like a skip button. So what was happened is that Apple didn't like that how users could skip the actual prompt for the app tracking transparency. This is for allow to show ads that are related to you, personalized for you, if you allow it or not. And they didn't want that. So I said, all right. And we also saw that users would not well, kind of skipping the onboarding, but then would do things that they don't understand and ask for clarity, which I find don't make sense. But who am I? So I did end up redoing the onboarding, which I will show you briefly here. Right. So I just simplified the onboarding to have to show like the amount of steps overall and what it would contain. So see what is open right now, which just shows like is the two examples, which is Marina hot doubles and the gyro. And that shows like an example of how check-in would be when somebody checks in. You would see that it's open and check-in. And usual really spot to show like whether a positive negative would affect the satisfaction score. And whether if you want to allow or use location, which is important. So you ask if you want to allow it once, why use location? Do you allow app tracking? So here's where they had a problem. If it had a skip button, it wasn't supposed to, which is fair. So this was an ask, allow, and then that was it. And as you can see here, the app would load fine. Yeah, see, loads fine. All right, So those were the issues I got rejected for. Yeah. But when I did the change, I made a little boo boo. When doing the same onboarding, I did not have for notifications, it should be optional. And how I did it, like if you decline it, it will not allow you to move forward. So that's why the second reason why we got rejected was because of that. So it's here me actually responding to them, telling them the things that we would have fixed, which was add the guest mode. I didn't bother to explain to them that I already had the guest mode. I just moved like I just added it, and I would have attached a video recording showing that the guest mode was added, and this is when they would have rejected it for the other notification must be optional and must obtain users' consent to be used within the app. Just also fair. So after the back and forth with that, it got approved. The thing with them though is that for each rejection, it took like 3 days in between. Because the app was planned to launch the 18th of April, which it did, thank God. So that was the main focus during that point in time to kind of get through. Google had no issues with the approvals, it went through as is. I think at one point it got rejected during the beta for the paywall, the terms and conditions. It didn't clarify in terms of what happens after the 3 days, which is fair. So we fixed that in the earlier days. All right. So now I'm going to take you to the metrics, which you can see here. So far, since the 18th of April, iOS has 103 downloads, which is not too bad. And it had like 150 or 130 views a person's actually looking at it and whatnot. For a person download. Oh, the thing with iOS though, so when we were testing the beta, they would have to download an app called Test Flight and install it. But when the app went live, person will have to delete that app and re-download the app, as you can see here. So I had to push out a beta update, indicate to the users that the app is live and to download it. So you can see here that it actually have 34 people still have the app installed on using Test Flight, which is not really good. Out of the 50 that probably still have it 34 install it. So that's something I hope people would realize that they have to download. Android, on the other hand, as you can see here, it has 192 persons without downloading the app and have it installed so far. And let's now move this here. All right. And you see it, well, I think 1-star rating so far. I think that's a 5-star rating. Probably me, of course. I can show you the stats as well. For out of those, as you can see here on the graph, let's see. So out of those, 161 is from Trinidad and Tobago, and the rest is from the United States, which is good because the app is supposed to be main one would be Trinidad. Because if it wasn't Trinidad, I'd be confused if the downloads were from mainly US and not Trinidad. And yeah, also one of the things we did additionally run into an issue as well is someone added KFC, which I was confused about. People do some strange thing, which is fair. Although the app did indicate. So I had to add, as you can see, I added like to keep Bara street food first. Add roadside vendors, people discover stalls, cars, food truck, avoid chain restaurants like KFC or Subway. Just to make sure to get in ahead. I even had to add like a validation if I try to enter KFC and other well-known establishments that it won't allow them to. And I also add like a how-to section to indicate for persons who might want to have clarity, which you'll find out on the profile itself. And yeah, so that was one of the main things I would have done. And we also added on the moderation side like a warning system. So in the event people might do something that they don't understand or deem might be accident, get like a warning indicating them, hey, you wasn't supposed to do this. Let's not do that again or whatnot. Or else, they get suspended or banned, depending on what the issue is. Of course, that is subjective, of course, depending on like what exactly, is the reason. And lastly, I'll show you a little bit of the post-hoc analytics a little bit. This is basically where we track, have idea of like what people are doing and whatnot. This would not be accurate because I believe, one, I would have removed the skip button, so this wouldn't show it correctly. And based on this, I try to remember if I actually added back the onboarding completion. I don't think I did based on what is showing here. But based on 314 persons, well, this no longer exists. It would show that it dropped off and completed only one 40 persons completed. So I knew I double checked the how I did the approach for that. For the signups, you can see here that let me see, out of the 298 persons, 152 use Google Sign In, 79 use Guess, which is actually interesting. 36 use Apple, and well, 29 use email. So when I see this thing, because initially I wasn't going to use Guess, but it's a good thing we did use Guess because it would have got rejected anyway. Because I had a feeling based on the kind of app, Google will kind of be a little more, Apple would be a little more stringent with that, which makes sense. Let's know. So like for the vendor created as well, as you can see here, nobody really created vendors after they signed up. But I think this might have to adjust because it's not very accurate in terms of, because I did see people did create vendors, so I'm not sure what, I'll double check that accuracy regarding that. As well as when people view the maps, and who would open like the mini vendor card. Yeah, so one thing I realized people either not aware that they could vote for vendors. Well, it would seem so based on the stats we were seeing. Because to me, if you click, like example, Protein Limited, tap to view and you tap it, you'd see that, recent check-ins, that's on Bara, and all the votes. Oh, one thing additionally change that we did too is initially, if you scroll, they would have seen like the signal status icon would have been like a clock icon, and it would have an unknown. But you realize that persons were confused about the unknown, which makes sense because it didn't really indicate whether unknown means that place. But they would know what the other options are apart from known basically. So that was the main thing. So we changed it to the show like a signal icon, and if they click it, it will show recent check-ins. But if it has check-in, people check-in whatnot, it would show like open, closed, and whatnot. Lastly, we are working on like a vendor integration for Bara for vendors, which I kind of show like metrics, which I would definitely do another video, just basically indicating like how it works, how vendors could claim their listings, and what you're still trying to finalize, and we'll take it from there. That's it for in a nutshell. Oh, the last thing, well, the advertising on Bara, which is something I'm trying to work on as well. Was not finalized yet. Still trying to figure out some logistics regarding integration of it. All it's supposed to be is that persons could actually sign up on the app, well, through the browser, indicating like what their business is, and we'll work with them to do like a custom banner for them, in terms of their budget that they have, either weekly or monthly. And from there, we would actually, schedule when to do the ad campaign for the app, so they would see it. And I think that's it for the video. So stay tuned for the next video, which should show about the Bara for vendors.